It always begins with a pull you can't quite explain, a restlessness, a shimmer behind reality, like a dream you half remember but can't ignore. It's not loud. It doesn't shout. It hums, deep beneath your routines, beneath the mask you've learned to wear, beneath the stories you've rehearsed so long they started feeling like truth. And yet, there it is, that feeling, the knowing, that more is not only possible, it's inevitable, that the life you're living is only one version, one frequency, one outcome among infinite parallel timelines, and that the version of you who already feels free, whole, expansive, already exists. She is not a fantasy, not a goal. She is real, and she's calling you, not through effort, through energy, not with instructions, with invitation. But here's the catch, and it's not what you think. The barrier between you and her is not willpower. It's not discipline. It's not a lack of visualization or motivation or even belief. The real barrier is the mental code, the silent programming you didn't choose but inherited, the web of assumptions you absorbed through repetition about who you are, what you're allowed to have, how reality works, and what's realistic. This code isn't obvious. It hides in your thoughts, yes, but more than that, it lives in your body, in your breath, in the tightness behind your ribs when you reach for more, in the hesitation before you speak your truth, in the impulse to over-explain, overwork, overprove. It's not just a mindset, it's a nervous system pattern, a protective loop, a safety contract you didn't consciously sign, but that you've been keeping faithfully. And yet, what if it was never real safety? What if it was just familiarity in disguise? You see, the mind loves the known, even if the known is limitation, even if it's stress, even if it's lack, because to the survival brain, predictability feels safer than possibility. So it loops, repeats, protects, and we call that logic. We call that being realistic. But it's not reality. It's a filtered projection of your subconscious settings. And the moment you remember that, everything begins to shift. Because what you perceive as the way things are is actually just the reflection of your current signal. And signals can change. That's the quantum truth we were never taught. You don't create your reality through force. You generate it through frequency. You don't unlock your next level by doing more. You unlock it by becoming more coherent, more regulated, more receptive. That's how timelines collapse, not through control, through alignment, through energetic safety, through the soft but radical decision to stop chasing and start embodying. The version of you that already lives in abundance. She isn't waiting on a manifestation method. She's not holding her breath until you get the script right. She's vibrating at a level of clarity that dissolves resistance before it forms. She walks through the world as if it's already hers, not from arrogance, but from peace, from deep knowing, from the felt sense that nothing true can be missed, and nothing aligned requires self-abandonment. But here's what most people, you don't become her by force. You don't earn your way into that version of reality. You remember your way there. You regulate your way there. You soften the grip of your survival mind long enough to let the deeper intelligence of your body lead. That's when the door appears. Not in front of you, within you. And you realize it was never locked. It was never even closed. It was just veiled by the story that said you had to prove your worth to pass through. But the real you, the quantum you, she's already inside, waiting, whispering. Not try harder, but come home. Not fix yourself, but feel again. Not manifest it, but merge with it. And when you do, reality responds in kind, because it always was. So what does it mean to break the mental code? Not in theory, but in the flesh, in the quiet moments between your thoughts, in the way your breath moves when no one's watching, in the choices you make without even realizing. Breaking the code isn't about changing your mind. It's about rerouting your identity, shifting the internal posture from survival to safety, from seeking to knowing. It's the moment you stop asking, how do I get there? And start asking, what in me believes I'm not already there? Because the quantum self is not a destination. It's a frequency already available. You don't move toward it, you tune into it. But tuning in means confronting the noise, the static of shoulds and shame and old wiring that's kept your signal scrambled. That's where most get stuck. They try to raise their vibration while ignoring the parts of them that feel unsafe in higher frequencies. They try to embody abundance while suppressing the grief, the rage, the ache of all the times they settled. But coherence can't be faked. Alignment doesn't bypass. It integrates. To step into the quantum version of you, you must create enough internal safety for your body to believe it's okay to expand, because otherwise, you'll always snap back to the familiar loop, back to the tight version of you who knows how to survive, but not how to receive. So pause for a moment, not in your head, in your breath. What's the pace of your nervous system right now? Is there urgency? Is there bracing? Is there a silent rule that says, I must figure it out or I'll be behind? That's the code talking. That's the contract trying to renew itself. But you don't have to sign it. You can interrupt it with one exhale, one choice, one deeper truth. Because truth is what reprograms the field. Not affirmation layered over fear, not performance, not pretending, but honest, regulated presence. That's what the quantum responds to. Not your perfection, your coherence, your willingness to feel without collapsing, to soften without shrinking, to notice the old code without obeying it. And as you do, something subtle begins to happen. Life starts to mirror back your shift. You'll hear someone say the exact words you needed. A door will open without effort. A timing will align too precisely to be coincidence, and your mind will scramble to make sense of it. But your body will know. This is resonance. This is evidence of embodiment. This is you collapsing the space between the now and the version of you who already lives it. You'll stop asking, when will it happen? And start asking, how much more of me am I willing to let through? You'll realize manifestation isn't magic. It's magnetic. It's about removing what's distorting the signal so what's already yours can find you. Because the quantum field is not waiting. It's responding. Always. And the more you shift from needing to becoming, from effort to essence, the faster it responds in kind. Not because you're forcing it, because you're finally aligned with it. So break the code, not with rebellion, but with remembering, with regulation, with resonance. Let your breath tell a new story. Let your stillness rewire the pattern. Let your presence become the portal, because that's where the quantum self lives. Not in some distant future, but in the version of now that feels like peace. The irony is, we spend so much of our lives chasing a version of ourselves that's already here. Not because we're foolish, but because we've been conditioned to search outward for what can only be accessed inward. We're taught to hustle, to strive, to set goals as if we're building something from scratch, when in truth, quantum embodiment is not construction. It's revelation. It's uncovering. It's returning. But to return, you must slow down enough to listen. And that's the hardest part in a world that rewards speed and noise. We've confused momentum with alignment, activity with purpose. But the quantum field doesn't respond to movement. It responds to meaning, to frequency. And frequency is shaped by feeling, by the quality of your inner presence, not the quantity of your outer actions. So imagine this. You're walking through your day, carrying invisible tension in your chest. You're saying the affirmations, visualizing the outcome, doing all the things. But beneath it all is a hum of urgency, a vibration of not enough yet. That's the real signal. Not the words, not the vision board, but the nervous system's state of contraction. And the field responds accordingly, because it always listens to your truest tone, not your performance. That's why embodiment is everything. Because the quantum version of you doesn't just think differently. She feels differently. She breathes differently. She chooses from a different baseline of truth. She doesn't chase clarity. She is clarity. Not because she has all the answers, but because she's not performing for certainty anymore. She's not auditioning for worth. She's resting in it. And resting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means acting from alignment instead of fear, from wholeness instead of lack. It means allowing your energy to speak louder than your strategy. It's the difference between reaching out because you're desperate to be chosen and reaching out because your overflow can't be contained. Between launching a project to prove you matter and birthing it because it's the most natural expression of who you are now. That's the shift. And it's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's as subtle as the moment you exhale deeper than you ever have before and realize you don't need to become anything. You just need to allow who you already are to emerge. Sometimes it's in the silence between your thoughts where you finally hear the truth that's been waiting. The The door was never locked. The portal to your next level is not a distant finish line. It's a present moment frequency, a signal you can step into now, if you're willing to feel safe enough to receive it. But emotional safety doesn't just come from thinking positive. It comes from honoring what's real, from letting your body tell the truth, from not skipping over the pain, but integrating it, making space for all the parts of you, even the ones that are scared, skeptical, or still grieving. Because when those parts feel seen, they stop resisting. They stop trying to protect you by pulling you back into the old loop. That's the inner reunion. And once it begins, your outer world has no choice but to reflect it. You'll start noticing synchronicities, not because they weren't happening before, but because now you're available for them. You're coherent enough to perceive them. That's the shift that changes everything. Not from lack to abundance, but from resistance to receptivity. And in that space, the space of full-spectrum acceptance and nervous system clarity, reality begins to respond in ways that feel like magic, but are actually just mathematics. The math of energy, the geometry of vibration, the algorithm of alignment. You don't unlock it by striving. You open it by softening. You don't chase the quantum version of you. You embody her. You become the doorway. And this becoming, it's not a single moment. It's not a cinematic breakthrough where everything shifts in a flash of light. It's quieter than that, softer. It lives in the repetition, in the spaces where you choose presence over performance, where you catch the old thought before it becomes your reality, where you pause, not to analyze, but to feel, to tune your instrument instead of forcing the music, because you are the instrument, and every choice is a note, every breath, a vibration. Every moment of nervous system coherence is a signal sent out across timelines, collapsing the distance between what you desire and what's already seeking you. The more you ground into that signal, the more magnetic you become, not by trying to be high vibe, but by becoming deeply true, deeply honest, deeply aligned with what your body knows, but your mind forgot. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply remembering how to receive. It's not about thinking your way into wholeness. It's about letting go of the parts of you that think you need fixing. Because the quantum self does not emerge through effort. She emerges through integration, through the sacred decision to trust what you feel, even when it contradicts what you've been taught, through letting sensation lead instead of logic, through choosing softness even when the world demands your hard edges. This is where embodiment becomes a revolution. Because in a world that teaches you to override, to push through, to perform your worth, choosing to regulate your nervous system, to honor your emotional truth, to walk in coherence, that is power. That is quantum leadership. That is how timelines dissolve and realities bend. So next time you feel stuck, or disconnected, or not there yet, don't reach for more force. Don't double down on effort. Instead, come home, drop into the body, ask, what part of me feels unsafe to expand right now? And then meet that part. Breathe with her. Listen to her. Not to fix her, to free her. Because every part of you holds a key to the door. Every contraction is just a signal asking for safety. And when you bring presence instead of pressure, the code begins to break. You'll feel it in your chest first. A loosening, a warmth, a remembering. Then the mind quiets. The frequency clears. And the external shifts without warning, like reality just fell into place. Not because you pushed, but because you finally aligned. This is the magic of nervous system coherence. It's not a technique. It's an access point to everything. And from that space, you begin to live as the version of you who doesn't manifest from lack, but from knowing, from completeness, from ease. Not because her life is perfect, but because her perception is no longer distorted by fear. She doesn't need signs to prove she's on the path. Her very breath is the evidence. Her presence is the portal. And this is how you step into her. Not with declarations, but with devotion. Not from pressure, but from peace. Each time you choose to feel instead of force, to soften instead of control, to exhale instead of grasp, you collapse timelines. You align with the dimension where your desires already exist. And reality begins to flow accordingly. Not because you earned it, but because you finally matched it. You are not becoming her. You are remembering her. And every time you break the old code, she steps forward. there's a moment in the process when everything gets quiet. Not because you've figured it all out, but because something deeper has settled. The striving slows, the questions soften, and in their place, a stillness rises, a kind of spacious knowing that doesn't need to be proven. It's the moment the mind steps back and the body begins to lead. The moment you stop waiting for life to reflect who you want to be and begin reflecting it yourself. That's the quantum shift. It's not loud or dramatic. It's subtle, like the scent of rain before it falls, like a new timeline arriving not with thunder, but with a breath, a pause, a feeling of undeniable yes in your chest, not as a thought but as a frequency. And in that moment, everything changes, not externally, not immediately, but internally, fundamentally. Because the most profound shift is not in what you see, it's in how you see. You begin to notice that the same street looks different. The same tasks carry a new ease. You start hearing music in the silence. You feel connected in places that used to drain you. You're no longer performing peace. You are peace. No longer rehearsing worth. You are walking it. And not because you did more, but because you became more available to the truth that was always inside you. And here's the paradox. The more you rest in that truth, the more life rises to meet it. Doors open, not because you pushed, but because you no longer vibrated at the level of resistance. Conversations shift, opportunities appear, coincidences become confirmation. And while your mind might still try to analyze the how, your body already knows. This is coherence. This is alignment. This is the universe adjusting to your remembered frequency. And it's sustainable, because it's not built on pressure. It's built on presence. That's what most people miss. They try to manifest from stress, from effort, from chasing a version of themselves that feels out of reach. But you can't outrun your own signal. You can only tune it. And tuning happens in the now, not later, not when you're ready. Now, when you choose to be with what is. When you stop abandoning yourself for a future that only responds to who you're being now. So what are you being right now? Not what are you doing? What are you being? What is the texture of your breath? The tone of your thoughts? The rhythm of your heart? Are you vibrating in truth or in tension? Are you holding the frequency of your quantum self, or are you rehearsing an identity that no longer fits? These are the questions that break the code, not with blame, but with clarity, not with shame, but with compassion. Because the old version of you, the one who survived by staying small, by staying safe, by staying silent, she was doing her best. She protected you when no one else did, but she is not the one who will lead you forward. That honor belongs to the self that trusts, the self that allows, the self that walks with open palms and a grounded spine, knowing that what is meant will magnetize. And when you begin to live from her, the world feels different. Not because the rules changed, but because you did. Your lens is clearer. Your field is cleaner. You're no longer chasing a better life. You're broadcasting a truer one. And reality, always listening, begins to rearrange itself in your favor. Not from fantasy, but from frequency. Not from force, but from essence. There comes a point when you stop waiting for permission. Not because someone finally said yes, but because you realize no one else ever had the authority. You stop negotiating your expansion with the voice in your head that only knows how to protect, not how to evolve. You stop dimming your light to fit into rooms that never felt safe in the first place. And something ancient within you exhales, as if it's been holding its breath for lifetimes, waiting for you to remember. This is who you've always been. The quantum version of you is not new. She's original. She's the blueprint beneath the conditioning, the song beneath the noise. And she's not in the future. She's in the moment you stop abandoning your own aliveness. She's in the choice to tell the truth, even when your voice shakes. In the moment you stop apologizing for wanting more. In the way your feet feel on the ground when you walk with certainty that you don't need to prove yourself to deserve what you desire. This isn't delusion. It's the deepest form of clarity. Because when you embody your truth, you're not escaping reality. You're creating it. You're becoming the attractor, not the chaser. And that shift changes the geometry of your field. It reshapes the probabilities around you. What once seemed unlikely now becomes inevitable. Because reality doesn't bend to force. It bends to coherence. And coherence comes from congruence. When your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and your nervous system all say the same thing, I'm safe to expand. I'm safe to receive. I'm safe to be seen. That level of congruence isn't just magnetic. It's miraculous. It's what collapses timelines and accelerates manifestations not through magic, but through precision, through presence, through energetic accuracy. You become a tuning fork, a living invitation. People feel different around you and don't know why. Synchronicities increase, time bends. You say something and watch it arrive in your inbox the next day. Not because you forced it, but because you finally embodied the version of you who doesn't doubt it. The version who walks with quiet certainty, who doesn't need to micromanage the how, who knows that her only job is to stay in signal, to stay in truth. And when you wobble, because you will, because you're human, you don't spiral. You pause. You breathe. You return. Because that's the real power. Not perfection, but recovery. The ability to recenter quickly, to re-choose alignment without shame. That's what makes you quantum. Not that you never fall, but that you don't build your identity around the fall. You remember, you regulate, you rise. This is the new architecture of manifestation. Not hustle, not control, not bypass, but deep presence, emotional fluency, nervous system literacy. You become the space where miracles happen not because you seek them, but because you're no longer resisting them. You've cleared the static. You've softened the armor. You've tuned your field to match your future. And now your future, that version of you once called impossible, it walks beside you. It speaks through your choices. It sings in your silence. And you realize the portal was never somewhere else. It was never locked. It was waiting, quietly, in your breath. And now, something tender opens. Not in your mind, but in the quiet of your chest. A kind of remembering that doesn't come from books or teachings, but from your own body's wisdom. From the space that was never disconnected, only drowned out by the noise. You feel it, that flicker of recognition. Like looking in the mirror and finally seeing yourself clearly, without the filters of expectation or fear. Not the version they wanted, not the one you performed, but the real one. Whole, soft, infinite. This is the beginning of trust, not the surface kind, but the cellular kind. The trust that says, even when it doesn't look like it's working, it is. The trust that no longer panics in the pause, that knows the in-between is sacred, that understands the silence before the shift is not absence. It's alignment, ripening. This is how the quantum unfolds, quietly, precisely, on time. And as you begin to trust that timing, your body relaxes, your field softens. You stop reaching for evidence because you've become it. You stop looking for signs because you are one. A living signal that reality responds to in exact proportion to your embodiment. And you feel the truth of it, not as concept, but as rhythm, as breath, as the deep knowing that you no longer need to chase anything, because nothing true can bypass resonance. So you begin to walk differently, not faster, not louder, but clearer, more rooted, more present. You speak less to convince and more to connect. You take action, not to prove, but to express. And the people, places, and moments that reflect your frequency begin to find you, not randomly, but reliably, as if the whole universe had been waiting for you to tune in, to remember, to stop fighting the current and realize you are the current. And still, there will be moments when the old code tries to return, not because you're failing, but because you're evolving. Expansion activates protection. The parts of you that once kept you small will flare up, not as sabotage, but as invitation. Can you love them too? Can you hold the fear without collapsing? Can you feel the wobble and still choose coherence? Because that's the real mastery, not control over circumstances, but inner steadiness in the face of them. You become unshakable, not because nothing moves you, but because you know how to return, again and again, to the breath, to the signal, to the version of you who already lives the life you're aligning with. And with each return, the old identity dissolves, not with force, but with grace, like petals falling, like armor melting. You don't have to kill off the past. You simply stop feeding it. You don't fight the old story. You just stop identifying with it. And the quantum self steps forward, not in a rush, not with fanfare, but with quiet certainty, as if she was always here, as if she never left, because she never did. She was just waiting for the moment you believed it was safe to become her. So now you stand at the threshold, not of something new, but of something ancient returning. Not a leap into the unknown, but a deepening into what has always been known beneath the surface noise. The door is in front of you, but this time, you don't ask if you're ready. You don't wait for another sign. You don't negotiate with doubt. You simply breathe and step through. Because you remember now, the door was never locked. The waiting was never required. The version of you you've been seeking isn't an outcome. She's a state, a frequency, and you are already vibrating closer to her than you've ever allowed yourself to feel. You don't have to chase her. You only have to stop dimming your light long enough to remember that you are her. That remembering will not come in a flash. It will come in the ordinary, in the way you pause before reacting, in the way your body softens instead of bracing, in the way you move through your day no longer asking, what do I need to do to get there? But instead, what would she do now from here as me? That single shift, from pursuit to presence, alters everything, because the quantum doesn't respond to your desire. It responds to your embodiment. So you stop chasing signs and start becoming one. You walk into rooms differently, not with arrogance, but with anchored softness. With a field so steady, others feel safer just by being near you, because you've stopped leaking energy through self-doubt. You've reclaimed it through nervous system sovereignty, through vibrational congruence, through radical coherence. That's the new code. Not a rule book, not a ritual, but a rhythm, a resonance, a remembering that every cell in your body can trust. You are no longer the seeker. You are the signal. You are no longer the one knocking. You are the door. And every timeline, every desire, every version of you that once felt far, now moves toward you. Not as a reward, but as a reflection. Because life is not testing you. It's matching you. Not to your words, to your frequency. Not to your wants, to your nervous system. And when your inner world becomes a sanctuary of truth, safety, and embodiment, the outer world has no choice but to recalibrate. So here you are, not at the beginning, not at the end, but in the middle of the most sacred unfolding, the remembrance of who you've always been beneath the programming, the soft return to your original signal, the gentle walk through the door you forgot was open all along. And as you walk, reality walks with you, reshaping itself in real time, not with force, but with frequency, not through doing, through being, not in some distant future, but now. Always, now.